Have you ever walked into a store planning to buy one thing and somehow walked out with 5? You didn't plan it. You didn't need half of it. And as you walked back to your car, you probably asked yourself the same question millions of people ask every day. Why did I buy all of this? Most people blame themselves. I have no self-control. I'm terrible with money. I should have been smarter. But what if that isn't the real reason? What if the biggest mistake you're making isn't spending too much, it's believing every purchase was completely your own decision? Because long before you picked up that product, long before you looked at the price, long before you even walked through the front door, someone had already started influencing your decision. Not by forcing you, not by lying to you, but by quietly changing the way your brain makes choices. This is the hidden world of behavioral economics, a field that studies one uncomfortable truth. Humans don't make decisions as rationally as we like to believe. In fact, many of the choices that feel completely logical were influenced by things you never consciously noticed. And once you see them, you'll never walk through a store the same way again. Imagine you're shopping for a new jacket. The first one you see costs $400. Your immediate reaction is almost automatic. That's expensive. You keep walking. A few minutes later, you find another jacket. It costs $180. Suddenly, it feels reasonable, maybe even cheap. But here's the strange part. Nothing about that second jacket actually changed. The fabric didn't change, the quality didn't change, the price didn't change. Only one thing changed: your reference point. Behavioral economists call this anchoring. Your brain rarely judges a price by itself. Instead, it compares it with whatever number it saw first. That first number becomes an invisible anchor, and every price after that is pulled toward it. This is why luxury stores often place their most expensive products near the entrance. They're not expecting everyone to buy them. They're changing your definition of expensive. Once your brain accepts $400 as normal, $180 suddenly feels like a bargain, even if you never planned to spend that much in the first place. Here's the fascinating part. The anchor doesn't even have to be relevant. In experiments, researchers have found that completely unrelated numbers can influence how people estimate prices and values. That's how powerful your first impression can be. Not because you're careless, because that's simply how the human brain simplifies decisions. Now imagine this happening dozens of times during a single shopping trip. Every price tag quietly influencing the next one, every comparison changing the one after it. By the time you reach the checkout, you're no longer making isolated decisions. You're making decisions shaped by everything you've already seen, and that's only the beginning. Because if changing your reference point can influence how much you're willing to spend, the next trick changes something even more powerful. It changes how urgently you feel you need to decide. Think about the last time you saw a sign that said, "Only 3 left in stock," or "Offer ends tonight," or maybe 1,200 people are looking at this item right now. Something changes inside your mind almost instantly. Even if you weren't planning to buy it, you suddenly feel like you might lose something. That's because your brain reacts much more strongly to the possibility of losing an opportunity than gaining one. Behavioral economists call this loss aversion. Psychologists have found that for many people, the pain of losing something is often stronger than the pleasure of gaining something of equal value. Stores don't need to convince you that the product became better. They only need to make you feel that waiting could cost you. And suddenly, buying now doesn't feel like spending money. It feels like avoiding a loss. That's an incredibly powerful shift, because once your brain starts thinking about what it might lose, logic quietly takes a step backward. Emotion takes the wheel. And the surprising part is, the next psychological trick doesn't even require changing the price. It only changes what your eyes notice first. Walk into almost any supermarket. Before you even realize it, your attention is already being guided. The products at eye level, those are often the ones companies pay the most to place there. The products you actually came to buy, they're frequently on the bottom shelf, or the very top. Not because they belong there, because every extra second you spend searching is another second you're exposed to dozens of products you never planned to see. Behavioral economists call this choice architecture. The idea is simple. People don't just respond to the choices they're given. They respond to how those choices are presented. Imagine 2 stores selling exactly the same products at exactly the same prices. One is carefully organized to guide your attention. The other is random. Most people will spend more in the first store, not because the products are different, because the environment quietly changes the way decisions are made. Now think about online shopping. Have you ever looked at 3 subscription plans? One costs $8, another costs $12, the third costs $39. Almost nobody chooses the $39 option. So why is it there? Sometimes it's not meant to be purchased. It's there to make the $12 option feel like the obvious choice. This is called the decoy effect. By introducing a deliberately unattractive option, businesses can influence which alternative feels most reasonable. Nothing about the $12 plan changed, but your perception of it did. And that's one of the most fascinating lessons in behavioral economics. Our decisions aren't always based on absolute value. They're often based on comparison. Now here's a question. Why do stores place candy, drinks, and small accessories right next to the checkout? If you already decided what to buy, why put more products in front of you? Because by the time you reach the register, something important has happened. You've been making decisions for the last 20 or 30 minutes. Which brand? Which flavor? Which size? Which color? One decision after another. Mental effort adds up. Psychologists often refer to this as decision fatigue. When your mind has been making choices for an extended period, resisting small temptations can become more difficult. That last chocolate bar, the pack of gum, the phone charger you didn't come for. Each purchase seems tiny on its own, but they don't appear there by accident. They're placed where your attention is lower and your resistance may already be worn down. Now step back and think about everything we've covered. Anchoring, scarcity, choice architecture, the decoy effect, decision fatigue. Individually, each influence may seem small, but together, they create an environment designed to shape how decisions feel. That doesn't mean you're powerless. It means you're human. Behavioral economics doesn't say people are irrational. It says our brains use shortcuts. Most of the time, those shortcuts help us make decisions quickly, but in carefully designed environments, those same shortcuts can be nudged in predictable ways. And that's the real lesson. The most powerful influence isn't someone forcing you to spend money. It's someone making one option feel so natural that you never stop to ask why it felt right in the first place. The next time you walk into a store, try a simple experiment. Pause for just a moment. Before putting something in your cart, ask yourself one question. Did I choose this? Or was I gently guided toward choosing it? That single question won't stop every impulse purchase, but it changes something much more important. It makes the invisible visible, because once you recognize the forces shaping your decisions, you begin to make them more consciously, and perhaps that's the greatest lesson behavioral economics has to offer. Real freedom isn't making more choices, it's understanding why those choices feel so compelling in the first place.